Welcome to our Enterprise Blockchain, the Path to Monetization workshop. My name is Guido Molinari, and I'm the managing partner at Prism Group. In today's workshop, we are going to be discussing with a number of industry leaders that are going to be joining us over the next 3 hours. I'm going to be kicking things off with a brief introduction about us, Prism Group, and presenting a couple of frameworks that we can use when thinking about some of the insights that the various speakers are going to be sharing with us this afternoon. And then I'm going to be leading the first set of fireside chats, where we're going to have joining us Mariana Gomez de la Villa from ING Bank, Dimitro Migliorati from Banca Mediolanum, Olaf Ransom from Finality International, and Riccardo Turbiani from Microsoft. After that, I'm going to be giving the floor to my colleague Rick Cataldo, who is going to be hosting a session with speakers joining us from Ireland and the US Coast. We're going to be having with us Jaron McGowan from WeTrade, Shyam Nagarajan from IBM, Chen Zur from Ernst & Young, and Daniel Wilson from TradeLens, and Mark Treshock from IBM Pharmaceutical Utility Network. After that, I'm going to be coming back, and with me, there's going to be another set of speakers joining us from the US Midwest and the Rockies. Among them, there's going to be Adam Kaplan from Salesforce, Merrick Vass from United Healthcare, the Synaptic Health Alliance, and David Post from IBM, Trust Your Supplier. We're going to then take some key takeaways together with Kathy Barrera, our founding economist at Prism Group, and we're going to draw some conclusions together from today's workshop.
Our next guest, we have Chen Zur of EY. He is the US blockchain practice leader. We're very happy to have him. Chen is joining us from New Jersey, and he's certainly got a lot to share with the audience today. So for those who don't know Chen, he's worked on a few dozen enterprise blockchain projects for EY. Hi, Chen, how are you today?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Thank you, great being here.
Great, thank you so much for joining us. So as I mentioned, Chen, you lead EY's US blockchain practice. You've worked on a few dozen blockchain projects across several different industries. So you certainly have a lot to teach us today. So can you give us a quick overview, maybe 60 seconds about maybe EY's blockchain projects, your role, and then I think we'll get into the ethos and the mantra that you guys are building.
So very much like other organizations working on enterprise blockchain, we are working together with clients in order to clients and ecosystems, I should say, as this is blockchain, in order to develop business processes that are supported by blockchain technology. Maybe one thing that makes EY unique in that regard is that we are also not just developing the supported business processes by blockchain, but also developing the ability to make them a system of record, meaning connecting. And I heard one of the previous panelists talking about that. So the systems we are building are connecting to a traditional ERP, not just in the sense that they are receiving information from them. For example, goods receipt, goods issue that is done in ERP, but also feeding ERP back with APAR invoices and journal entries, for example. Basically making the blockchain a shared system of record between multiple parties and influencing each party's ERP system and financial system. Not just that, but what we're also doing is making sure, using technology like blockchain analyzer, that we are able to produce audit-grade reports out of a blockchain solution. And when we discuss our vision, of course, we do this building on Ethereum and having the vision of this will work eventually on the public Ethereum.
Thank you so much, Chen, and thanks again for joining us. Very happy to have the EY team represented here because I know you guys have been doing a lot of fantastic things, even if not all of it's been public. So the first thing I'm going to ask you today is really regarding EY's approach to blockchain and, again, the ethos. So when we talk about monetizing a network, there's the network layer, there's the application layer, and then there might be this third layer that we call the services layer. And what are your strategies for monetization, and where do you see the most opportunity for EY?
Okay, so first of all, there's two things that we're focusing on. One, every blockchain solution that we are developing has to do with the exchange of value, not just creating a single version of truth in terms of data between multiple organizations. That means that we are using smart contracts in order to move tokens around that between wallets. That's what we basically do. And back to the question of layers, then let's start with the most basic layer, the infrastructure, the cloud layer. In order for this to be widely adopted, it of course has to run on all versions of infrastructure, meaning either on-premise, which we guess will be minimum and more cloud services and cloud agnostic. So any kind of cloud service provider, the infrastructure needs to run on. The second layer is the blockchain protocol. Here, we strongly believe that the only way for this to scale is for the protocol to be open, public, and free. That means that everything we're doing assumes that any protocol component needs to be in the public domain, and maybe our two most famous contributions to that is a Nightfall that shields the transfer of tokens between wallets on Ethereum, and Baseline that shields the execution of business logic over Ethereum, which, although we invested a lot of money in developing, we put in the public domain because we believe that if EY owns it, or if anyone owns it for that matter, no one would use it. Important to say that Baseline was developed together with Microsoft and Consensus, not just us alone, all sharing the same vision. If I continue after the platform level where, as we said, this needs to be open, we do understand and see how the application layer, meaning the software used in order to interact with the blockchain, so interfaces, ways to manage the governance, ways to extract reports, ways to interact with the blockchain, these can be monetized. And this is the level where we expect to see proprietary software. And as you said, last but not least, the ongoing maintenance and development of this functionality is again something you can monetize.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that overview, Chen. So the next question I have is really building off of that last question. So building a network requires many resources, requires time, expertise, skills. Obviously, a lot of money goes into it as well. If you don't look to monetize the actual network specifically, if this is more open source, so some iteration of open source, how do you internally justify that expense? Why not just let somebody else build those Rails for you? What benefits do you have as a lead developer?
First of all, truly wonderful question. And you know, we prepared yesterday. This didn't come up, but I love the question. So that's a good question. You know, EY is not a non-for-profit organization, and investing seven-figure numbers and then contributing to the public domain is definitely something that you know we need to justify. But I think that as a Big Four and as EY's leadership understands, the way business is done in the next few years is going to fundamentally change. And that means the way our core business offerings around assurance, around tax, around consulting are going to change as well. This is the motivation and the reason for investing so much money also in public domain stuff, because if we will not be the ones initiating this change, we will be the ones disrupted. And I think that is the logic behind it.
Yeah, phenomenal, Chen. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, the reason I asked that question is obviously I know you guys have an excellent answer to that, and I know that a number of companies are struggling with this question. This is building a blockchain network in particular. It's not something that you can build out and get a quarterly return, a return after just one quarter, which maybe some publicly listed companies would have to shy away from. So it's great that you guys are able to see and actually get authorized to build this over, which you'll monetize over time. So the last question that I have, I know you guys are working on a number of different projects here, is regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. What are you guys currently spending your time on? What are you developing?
So there's two main things that we're developing, and I will spend more time on one of them. So I'll start with the shorter version. We're using track and trace capabilities in order to track what I would call plasma or blood on a blockchain, as people recover from COVID and their blood is full of antibodies. In the blood production process, these antibodies are going to be extremely valuable, and the ability to track and trace from donation to usage is something that is extremely important, and we're working with a few international bodies and commercial organizations, pharmaceutical organizations, in order to work on that. The second thing that we're doing, and which personally I think is more revolutionary, is developing using a tool we already developed before the crisis called Public Financial Manager, developing the ability to track the usage of funds from an issuing organization. So in the US, that would be the federal level, all through the different federal agencies, the states, the municipalities, contractors, and eventually to the users, and to achieving the goals this money was granted to begin with. We are using blockchain capabilities in order to track this money all the way through. We're not talking about yet, of course, transferring the money over a blockchain. That would come, and probably, if you ask me, would come from China before it would come from the US. But we are using blockchain's ability to manage value across multiple participants in an ecosystem in order to make sure that we know where the money went, and we know, using oracles, for example, what the money was used for and what is the results, what were the results of this usage of the money.
Wonderful. Yeah, there it is again. We talk about tracking, managing value as opposed to data. So
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Chen, thank you very much for your time. We really look forward to learning more about what EY puts out there. How can anybody follow these updates, particularly regarding these COVID items?
So I think that the EY's website /blockchain has a lot of information. We keep this site current. I think that another way to follow up on what we've done is simply going to YouTube and look at the EY's 2020 Global Blockchain Summit that ended 2 weeks ago, maybe. Already has around 14,000 views, and you're welcome. I think we discussed there most of the most advanced things that we've done and are doing.
Chen. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your leadership and your team's leadership in this industry.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having me.